Blue Sea with me, Victoria. Thank you very much for joining me and Mr. No Name here. I hope you enjoyed the video on setting up a fairy shrimp tank. So fairy shrimp are like sea monkeys, but they are sort of like sea monkeys, but the opposite of sea monkeys in the fact rather than being saltwater, they are freshwater shrimp. So they're similar sort of care, very similar in that respect and in aspects to their mating, their care, their feeding. So I'm going to be setting up a fairy shrimp tank and telling you a little bit about fairy shrimp. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the thumbs up and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my link is down in the description. And again, if you have any name suggestions for this little guy, he's so sad, he has no names. Please let me know down in the comments and I will be picking one of them to name him. Please give him a name. He's so sad. He needs a name. Anyway, so today's ocean fact. If we continue the way that we are doing, there'll be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050. I know this is a depressing statistic, but I love our oceans and I care about marine life and I want to share that with you because I was so shocked by it when I first found it out, and I feel like it's my duty as someone who loves the oceans to share that with other people. Please remember to be kind to our oceans. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Think when you shop, think where you buy from. Try and buy organic where you can. Try and not overfish our seas. Buy sustainably caught fish, everything like that. And be very careful about reducing your plastic waste and reducing the plastic that you use so we can have more fish in the sea than plastic, because the fact that there may be more plastic in the sea than fish is an absolutely terrifying statistic by 2050, which in reality, in the grand scheme of things, isn't very far away. So if you care about our oceans like I do, please think of the fishes. Anyway, that's enough on that depressing note. I hope you are going to enjoy the video. If you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up. I really appreciate all your support. And if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. It's so nice to have you. Enjoy the fairy shrimp setup. Cheers. Today I'm setting up a new tank of fairy shrimps. This is my Lego fairy shrimp tank. It is twice the size of a regular sea monkey tank. And I'm going to be hatching beavertail fairy shrimp, which are from ArizonaFairyShrimp.com, as you can see there. So this is my tank. So first of all, I want to put some plants in because they are freshwater. So I'm going to put some plants in the tank for them just to help aerate the water naturally. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some substrate into the tank. And I have a cup of tea. Of course, must have tea. So this is the substrate I have, which is just substrate nutrition for aquariums from Pets at Home. So I'm just going to pour a thin layer of that on the bottom, and it's like soil, which there is some soil in their packet anyway. So this will be really good for the fairy shrimp as well. So I've got a thin layer at the bottom there. I'm going to put a tiny bit more in. Just pour that in. So I'm pouring this in when dry because it's much easier to do than wet, and then I'll add the water later. So I've also got some aquarium gravel from Pets at Home. I'm just going to add a little bit. It's very small, fine gravel, so the fairy shrimp won't get trapped in it or under it. You always have to be careful when adding gravel to things like fairy shrimp and sea monkeys. Just going to use a fan brush just to spread some of that out a little bit. Let's mix that in with the soil a little bit, the substrate. There we go. So that is the base of my tank. So I'm just going to add some plants. I think this is Anubis. I will add the plant names when I double check what they are. And I have some long tweezers here, which are great for planting. So what you want to do, you just want to grip the plant sort of down the stem like that and pop it into the tank. This can be a little bit fiddly. And just add a little bit of gravel around that to try and weigh that down. It may need adjusting again once the water is in. That should hopefully just try and get that root buried a little bit. This is really fiddly work and I'm terrible at it. So there we go, we've got a lovely little plant in the corner. I'm going to add some of this as well. I love this stuff, it grows in really, really nicely. I've got it in like a little ecosphere in my bedroom, and it grows in really, really nicely. I'll just separate some of that off. Again, use the tweezers. I just want to plant some just in here. Sort of terribly put that in. I'm going to add some right at the foreground here as well. Just to give them a little something in there. You don't need to, they can live in a plain tank, but this is part of another project and I want to add a few little decorations into it. So what I'm going to do now is fill it up with rainwater. I have tried using fresh water like treated tap water, however I have found personally that rainwater, which is what they naturally live in anyway, is absolutely perfect for them and is really good for them to thrive. So a friend of mine has collected a giant bottle of rainwater for me, so I'm going to go ahead and fill up the tank now. And trying not to spill this everywhere. So I'm pouring it into this way first, just so it doesn't disturb the bottom of the tank too much, just so it slowly trickles in rather than pouring and disturbing everything I've put in there. You can use a plate or a spoon, but I've just got like a little pot. Obviously make sure it's clean. So the water will be a bit cloudy at first where you've disturbed the substrate, but that's okay, it will clear up. I want to leave a little gap at the top. So now you can sort of go in with the tweezers and just rearrange things as necessary, just poke things down a little bit, but that's looking good. The plants are still in place. Obviously some of the substrate will come to the top, but that will sink and the water will clear. I know it looks like a tank of mud at the moment, but that's absolutely fine. It will look like that anyway when adding the eggs. So I'm not heating this tank, it's staying cool, so it's just going to stay at room temperature, so there's no need for heating or anything like that. So I now have the beavertail fairy shrimp eggs, which I'm going to go in and add once I manage to get into them. So there are 50 eggs in here, but you can also see there is some soil in there with them. So you can see why I said this would mess up the tank. I'm just going to use the tweezers just to gently sink some of this into the water. But unlike sea monkeys, you don't need to wait to put the eggs in, you can put them in straight away. What I'm going to do is clean off those tweezers into there. I just don't want to be taking the eggs out on my fingers. I've just got a bit of soil on them. I'm just going to add a tiny little bit more water just to try and help some of those eggs go down. So I know it looks like a tank of soil at the moment, but that will all settle and hopefully we will have some eggs hatching, which I will of course provide updates on. So they will eat algae, which I have, which I feed my sea monkeys, so I can just use sea monkey food to feed the fairy shrimp. You can also feed them yeast, however I have found from personal experience feeding them yeast doesn't work very well at all and can create some quite nasty growths in the tank, so I would advise against feeding them yeast. So I'm going to leave this to settle for a while and I'll be right back. So while the water settles, let me tell you about fairy shrimp. So fairy shrimp are a kind of freshwater shrimp. They're also known as freshwater Artemia, which if you watched my previous video, brownie points for you, you'll know that Artemia are brine shrimp, which are what sea monkeys are a type of. Opposite to sea monkeys, fairy shrimp live in non-salty water in temporary pools, like from the rainfall, and sea monkeys live in salt water. So what happens is when the water dries up, the eggs will be left there for the next season. When it rains, they will hatch again, which is why you can have the dried eggs and then hatch them like I am doing today. So they swim ventral side up with 11 pairs of legs. They have 22 legs total and have 2 eyes, 2 sets of antennas, which the male will use to grasp onto the female during mating, so he has larger antennae. They're usually 20 to 35 millimeters long, but can grow up to 50 millimeters long, and their lifespan is about 14 weeks, which is not very long lived compared to sea monkeys, but are a great little pet to have. So that was my fairy shrimp tank setup. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learnt something new. If you've got any questions about fairy shrimp, if you've got your own fairy shrimp, anything like that you want to let me know, please do so down in the comments. I would love to hear from you, and I will do my best to reply to all of your comments. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Cheers.